One of the most crucial rules of the Matrix is that if you get hurt or die in the simulation, you get hurt or die in the real world. For some reason, the human brain interprets simulated damage as real damage. But how and why? Is there a logical explanation of why if you die in the Matrix, you die in the real world? Welcome to Matrix Explained.
Welcome to the desert of the real.
This mind over matter phenomenon was first explained to Neo when he failed the jumping simulation.
I thought it wasn't real.
Your mind makes it real.
If you're killed in the Matrix, you die here?
The body cannot live without the mind.
A short and direct explanation from Morpheus, but still a bit vague. His explanation isn't completely accurate, stating that the body cannot live without the mind doesn't specify why the happenings within the simulation are easily translated into real life. This rule goes into effect multiple times during the Matrix. Mouse getting shot up with machine guns, Cypher forcefully unplugging APOC and Switch, and Smith shooting point blank at Neo's chest. It's safe to say that this rule is consistent, but we still want to know why. Let's begin by analyzing the forceful disconnections. Cypher killed two of his ex-crew members by forcefully unjacking them from the Matrix. Their consciousness did not exit the simulation, and so the connection between their residual self-image and their physical bodies was severed, killing the brain and leaving the body without a soul. An instant, painless death. But being killed due to physical trauma inside the Matrix is completely different and more complicated. It can be explained by using different Oriental beliefs. For thousands of years, some philosophical threads talk about how we can develop certain abilities in which we can master our body using our mind. Some people who follow these teachings reach a point where they stop feeling physical pain regardless of being hurt. You could say that their mind is dominating their body, and this is the mind over matter philosophy. Some people who believe in this philosophy believe that our thoughts are what controls our reality because these thoughts are entirely connected to what happens to our body. So if we believe that a pain that we are enduring is worse than it is, the pain intensifies. If you manage to control your thoughts, you could control your reality and soothe that pain, maybe even make it disappear altogether. We see this in multiple demonstrations of people subjecting themselves to what any normal person would consider as painful experiences and seem to not be bothered by the pain. They are those who can somehow ignore the pain by only using their minds, acting as if nothing was wrong. But such a strong mental perception could also be harmful if their thoughts become destructive. It does sound a little metaphysical and thus not entirely real, but there is scientific evidence that proves this. Have you ever heard of the placebo and nocebo effects? Decades ago, a strange discovery was made in the field of conventional medicine, a psychological effect, if you will. It was discovered that in some cases, giving a sick person fake medicine could heal them. This was proven in an experiment where a controlled group were given real medicine and another group were given what is commonly referred to as placebos, sugar pills. The scientists observed the patient's progress and noticed that people in both groups got better regardless of the treatment. Thus, the placebo effect was born. This experiment proved that for some reason, if a sick person was convinced that they are getting real treatment, even with fake medicine, can be healed, and that was a positive result. However, as with everything in life, there was a counter-reaction. Enter the nocebo effect. This is placebo gone backwards, meaning that if you give somebody a pill and tell them that it's poison, and if said person believes it strongly enough, they could start feeling ill, even if the pill wasn't poisonous at all. Just as with the placebo effect, nocebo varies from person to person, as some minds are stronger than others. The point here is that both placebo and nocebo have the potential to severely affect the human body, and applying these effects to the world of the Matrix we can deduce that the translation of physical harm from the simulation to the real world is an extreme case of the nocebo effect. If the red pills believe that they're being harmed inside the simulation, they will suffer in the real world because their brains cannot separate fantasy from reality while connected to the matrix, or at the very least, their minds are not strong enough to do so. However, in Neo's case, he was the integral anomaly. He was a being infinitely more enlightened than his allies, so he was able to overcome such limitations and keep himself Nocebo free. After Neo resurrected, what happens to him inside the Matrix no longer affected his body in the real world. His brain understood entirely that what happens to him inside the simulation wasn't real, and thus cannot hurt him. Yet this is just one possible explanation for this phenomenon. When Neo failed the jumping test, when he was fighting Smith in the subway station, and when Mouse was killed, they both bled from their mouths, meaning that something inside their bodies was wounded. This mysterious source of blood may not have come from their biological parts of their bodies, but the mechanical parts. As we should know, all humans awakened from the Matrix still have mechanical parts that cannot be removed. They are hybrids. Robotic components are embedded in them from the day they are grown to fulfill two different functions. One is to serve as batteries for the machines in the real world, and two is to allow them to connect to the Matrix through their brains. Knowing this, we can speculate that the machines have also installed a mechanical function in the humans that respond to damage, translating simulated damage into real physical damage. Maybe the simulation sends signals to these mechanical components inside the humans that when activated, they will cause internal damage to their organs or other parts of their bodies. Think of it as force feedback when playing a VR game, only that the force feedback in the Matrix is crushing or breaking your insides. And of course, if the body suffers enough damage, it will die. However, even more interesting is that the answer to this mystery could lie in a middle ground between the nocebo effect, mind over matter, and the mechanical components that physically harm the human-machine hybrids. Makes us wonder that if a red pill can die from a bullet wound inside the Matrix, could somebody who is physically ill or hurt in the real world be treated and healed inside the simulation? But do you agree? Does the mind over matter concept explain why humans that die in the Matrix die in the real world? Or are the culprits internal mechanical components? For Matrix Explained, please leave a like and subscribe. And thank you for visiting the Desert of the Real.